Brambro here with some Grand Tactician Civil War, our CSA campaign and the 1.06 beta. Okay, well, there's been another little update to 1.06, and there's a couple things worth showing that I think are some improvements that people will like. I know I do. The first is they had said recently, and I think I mentioned this in previous episodes, at least in a comment. I don't know if I said it in voice commentary, but a couple of days ago, maybe 3 days ago, they said, yeah, the forts are costing too much. We're going to bring that down. Well, they have. Saw that mentioned this morning, but let's see how much a fort costs now. I'm not going to actually build it here, but just to see the cost. It was 18 million, and now it is 6.9. And I think it varies a little bit. So it may have something to do with local infrastructure or supply or something, but over here, if Johnston were to build one in this area, it would be 6.7. Bottom line is that they've brought it down a lot. I'd seen that they were going to lower the cost. I'm a little mildly and pleasantly surprised that they brought it down by that much. I was expecting, okay, they're going to bring it down to like 12 million or something. No. Now this is still expensive, but it strikes me as okay, now, I mean, before we had the situation where it didn't really cost anything, so just spam them wherever you feel like, whenever you feel like. And then we kind of overcompensated into goodness, these things cost so darn much, I'm just never going to build them. You know, maybe like one or two in a campaign or at the most important places. Something around 6 to 7 million strikes me as, okay, now there's a trade-off to be made. You can't really go spam them, but they're not prohibitively expensive in some, you know, kind of key points on the map. Yeah, for example, you know, as has been talked about before in this campaign earlier, this area right here, Winchester, this is a pretty key area. You know, it's a crossroads. You know, it points up into the Union, it points down into the South, and then it sits right here across a pretty major route running east-west. Stopping armies from either side, right? Even if you capture Winchester as when playing Union, same thing. Kind of denying mobility through here to the enemy is pretty key. Was it worth 18 million? That was a hard sell. Is it worth 6 point something million? Yeah, I kind of think so. Am I going to go build a fort there right now? No, because I don't really want to tie up Johnston if it needs to reinforce. I want to keep Johnston on, this is Johnston still. Yeah. I want to keep Johnston within easy reinforcement range of, this is now Longstreet, I believe. And if I take them across the mountains, I think I break that. What I am doing, though, is I did recruit another little small-size engineering brigade down at Eastern Department. And I intend to make another one of those little engineering corps like we have out west. The 2nd Engineering Corps will be up and running soon. And yeah, I think I may have him come up here and build a fort at Winchester. So that's one thing, and I think that's a pretty welcome change. What else do we have here? We had talked before about why don't we see the influence of markets? Well, they've done that. They have added a market influences heat map, and there we go. So all these markets we've built along the Gulf Coast and the Atlantic Coast, okay, we see their kind of areas of effect now. Now, whether they are accurate or not is a separate question. Because we have seen in a previous episode that The bank, for example, and oh, by the way, our bank at New Orleans has completed upgrading to Tier 2, so that's cool. But we had seen that, you see this level of area on the heat map for available capital, but we could see in build tooltips that the area of effect of a bank actually extended some minor level of available capital much further than is shown on the heat map. So the question is, what about the hospital heat map? What about the market heat map now? What about the news agency heat map? Are those areas of effect extending further than shown on the heat map? I don't know. And without some really exhaustive and tedious tracking of tooltips on a day-by-day basis and at different ranges and all that sort of thing, the kind of analysis and testing and data collection that, I'm not that guy. I'm not going to be doing that. Short of that kind of effort, though, I don't really see a way to easily tell the way we can with a bank. But at any rate, the addition of the market influences heat map is a welcome addition. Worth mentioning, and I was kind of warned by one commenter that this would be the case, built this market here at Apalachicola. The idea was to improve the infrastructure for this port, for trade. Well, there's not even a road coming here. There is no infrastructure to improve. So we've got this red area of effect of a market, which the effect of it is to increase transport capacity. Well, if you don't have a road or a railroad, increased zero is still zero. Now, there is a river here. River does provide some route. I guess it's possible that maybe the market could be helping out the transport capacity along the river. I think that depends on if it's navigable or not. Now, I'm not sure this is. And I'm not sure that river borne supplies, it may need a port, and I don't think there's a port up this, so that may not be helping that either. There is a saltworks here. Okay, so that's another change that was updated to the update this morning, I think, morning where I am. Yesterday for some people viewing, I'm sure, or, well, people could be viewing this 6 weeks from now. So, okay, that's enough of that. One other thing, I don't think this was, I didn't see a mention of this in the dev post on the update, but I don't remember seeing this before either, and maybe it was here and I just didn't notice it. But on these buildings menus down here, we now have priority indicators. I don't think this was here before today. I don't remember seeing it. But, for example, this building is requested by your economy, medium priority, though there may be more important constructions. And actually, for the federal, for some reason, the economy thinks we need, high priority on prison camps. That strikes me as odd. I mean, it strikes me as odd because it seems like that would be a governmental policy decision for the war effort, and the economy, the bankers, the company head, presidents, it seems like they wouldn't really give two shits one way or the other about that. Anyway, it says high priority for prison camps. Well, we built some. They're under construction from the last episode. And then, interestingly, on the company applications menu for the economic buildings, The economy seems to think we're doing okay on agricultural stuff. Low priority for plantations, low priority for mills, no priority for salt works, which I understand because I went and looked in this goods thing and we're actually producing a buttload of salt. Way, way more than demand. So early in the campaign, when I was just kind of testing bank and I built a salt works down here, yeah, that was the wrong choice. I wonder if I can actually abandon that to free up workforce and upkeep. No, it's built now. Okay. High priority, a little bit higher for farms, but high priority for foundries, ironworks, lumber mills, factories. Especially factories, I think. And I'm not going to go through and show all the various, supply and demand of each individual good, but I spent some time kind of going through this. Not a whole lot, but, I was just kind of looking around. Okay, what do you need to make X? And then X is needed to make Y. And as a general comment, we do seem to be doing okay on agricultural stuff. There are a few little things that need some help here and there, but it's just in general, I'll put it this way. We're doing better on the agricultural stuff than we are on the industrial stuff, which is reflected right here, right? Foundries, ironworks, lumber mills, and factories, high priority, whereas not as high priority for some of the ag buildings. And this kind of matches what, as I went through here, that made sense. We're making enough crops on the farms. We're making enough livestock on the farms. We are not making enough rice on the plantations. But when it comes to producing food, you don't need all those. You just need one of them. The way food is made is you need X amount of flour, or you need X amount of rice, or X amount of livestock, or X amount of fish, but which I guess must be imported because I'm not aware of it. Maybe fish come from ports. I'm not sure. Anyway, there's multiple options for producing food, and then food then feeds into the making of provisions. And that's what is actually consumed by the armies. For the provisions, what you need is food, which is a separate good. That's not just a general term covering those other four items. It is a separate good. You need food, you need salt, you need coffee. Coffee, there's no as far as I could tell, there's no production for that. That comes from overseas. That's an import, and there's just no other way around it. You got to buy the coffee from, through external trade, period. We have a butt ton of salt already, and that leaves food. Where does food come from? It comes from those four things I mentioned earlier: flour or rice or livestock or fish. But where is that actually made? It's made in a factory. So there's an industrial piece to that food production chain to get food to the army in the form of provisions. So even on the agricultural side, we need factories. And then on the ammunition and weapons side, we need foundries, we need ironworks. And some of those chains kind of cross each other there as well. It turns out that we've made some point through the campaign of the Confederacy only has one iron mine. It's right here near Knoxville. And that is completed upgrading as well. However, I guess it only goes to tier 2. because I cannot upgrade it again. So we got what we got here. The only way that we're going to help the iron ore situation is to improve infrastructure in this area. We already have a railroad. The only other way to improve transportation infrastructure in this area that I know of is a market. So even though there's not that much kind of going on in this Knoxville area, what there is, which includes the iron mine and also one of our major iron works, is pretty high priority, and I think probably needs a market here. Doesn't mean I'm going to build it right this second, but I think a market for Knoxville to cover this ironworks and this iron mine is something that probably ought to do at some point, pretty soon. There's one iron mine. There is also only one lead mine. It's somewhere around Lynchburg here. Is that it? Yeah. That's it. This is the only lead mine in the Confederacy. What is lead needed for? Lead is needed for small arms ammunition. And we are not quite matching our production, our supply is not quite matching demand. However, it's not terrible. If I upgrade this, I believe we will be producing enough lead. And what is the upgrade cost? It is 3.8 million, and I'm going to go ahead and do it. Boom, there. Doesn't matter if it was a bad decision now, it's done. Can't undo it. What are other things we need? We need gunpowder. And that comes from, well, I forgot. We need niter and we need coal. It turns out that we are producing plenty of coal. Production 106,000. Demand 23,000, and pretty low value. Okay, so we're fine on coal production. We are also fine on niter production. 41,000 produced, 17,000 demanded. So the raw materials are fine for gunpowder, right? It's just we need enough capacity to actually use those goods to produce enough gunpowder, which happens to be in shortage. Production 17,000 versus demand 30,000 or 29,000. And lack of raw materials is not the reason why we're low on gunpowder production. Lack of factories is why we are low on gunpowder production. So, what does that mean? It means I need to build a bunch more factories, is what it means. And so, and we need to put those in places where there's workforce and infrastructure. And if we look at the workforce heat map and look where the railroads are, kind of this southern and eastern Tennessee area between Nashville and Memphis looks like a good spot to plop some factories. Maybe down here in Georgia, kind of where we've put some other workforce, put factories next to the prison camps. Looks like a good spot to put some factories. And maybe up here just north of Baton Rouge, I'm on the correct heat map this time doing this discussion. Maybe some here to take advantage of slightly lower costs coming from the available capital from our Tier 2 bank. Maybe up here in the Upper Shenandoah, just north, between Lynchburg and Stanton, not too far from these railroads, would be a good spot. And so then that brings me to where are we at with policies we are currently researching, appropriately as it turns out, Industrialization 1, which is going to be done in just a couple days. So as soon as that pops, I'm going to go straight into Industrialization 2. We're still in the A range for credit rating, so I don't feel particularly compelled yet to pop in a government funding. So I think we'll go industrialization and probably follow that up with I'm of two minds at the moment. King Cotton 2 to further increase ag subsidies. I know I definitely want that. It's just whether I want that next. It's either this one or I'd kind of like to get... I don't intend to go way far down this diplomacy tree, but I'd kind of like to get a little bit more diplomacy funding going in order to a little bit more quickly unlock maybe some of these imported rifles. Kind of as an alternate source. I think they'll probably be a little bit more expensive, and I'm not going to import tens of thousands of them. Like, I put in that order for 50,000 Springfield rifle muskets. Not that kind of volume, but as an alternate source that can kind of go in parallel instead of in series with our main rifles. I'm kind of interested in that. I don't really know much about this French mini rifle, if that's worth pursuing or not. But French weapons would give us both another source of rifles and another source of artillery. I'm not really interested in, imported European ships. I don't know if I want to... I'm sure these are probably pretty good. 12-pounder Blakely rifles and breech-loading Whitworths, but that's pretty expensive. I'm mainly thinking about some of these lower-cost ones just as to augment our own production rather than be our primary source. And I don't really see that much other stuff to use. Well, actually I do. I would actually kind of like this profits from foreign trade deals. Maybe I should just not worry about these imported weapons and put all of our diplomatic subsidies in this thing, which is actually available now. I'm gonna hold fire on that for now. But the other thing that we have available that we talked about in a recent episode, maybe the last episode, is we have legacy rifles available now. We also have cast artillery, which gives us Napoleons and James rifles. Now, if this was just giving us smoothbores, I'd probably go for the legacy rifles. However, because we've got James rifles in this cast artillery, I think that's what I'm going to go for. And so I'm going to pop that now. Boom, there we go. Now, let me not forget, and let's actually... It's not enough to unlock it. You have to actually go buy the damn things. Yeah, I think I want me some... Let's get like a couple batteries worth, battalions worth of 12-pounder Napoleons, which would be 32. Okay. And let's order up 2 battalions worth of... Well, They're here somewhere. There they are. 14-pounder James rifles. Which are apparently exactly the same price and delivery time as the 12-pounder Napoleons. Is that right? 2.2 for... Well, it doesn't give us... That was the cost, so... I guess because they come off the same project, they're considered equivalent in cost and delivery time. Okay. Alright, so we got some better artillery coming for at least 4 batteries. Some smooth bores and some rifles. Okay. Right, turn that filter off. Alright, let's have a look at the armies. We're going to kind of just, you know, Lee is staying put. This is Lee's army of Northern Virginia with now a 1st and 2nd Corps. Longstreet's commanding the 1st. Joe Johnston is still commanding the 2nd, which was the Shenandoah Army. He's working for Lee now. That's got to just get his goat, I'm sure. But, and that's primarily because, remember, when one of the earliest battles, Stonewall Jackson was wounded. He is still wounded, and he has not returned yet. When he comes back, he will probably command this corps, and what I'd like to do is take Johnston, and we're still recruiting this force over here in Tennessee in order to operate in the Cairo Evansville area that we talked about. I'm thinking Johnston to command that force. Joe Johnston. Sidney Johnston is still up here at Covington. We'll talk about him in just a moment. Garnett has still got troops coming, I should say Beauregard. This is Beauregard's army now, Army of Western Virginia. But Garnett's Corps has still got troops coming to him from Eastern Department. They have not quite arrived yet, but they're just a day away. So as soon as they get there, and he, you know, assuming that he maintains green readiness, and he should, that's the whole point of doing this recruit in the rear area thing. We'll move him up here, and he can be taking Marietta, and I didn't mention this before, but yeah, we'll also grab Wheeling, because it's a Virginia city. It's ours. We want it back. I'll come back to Sidney Johnston in just a moment. So the Army of Missouri just now finished fighting a battle here at Springfield. They're still recovering, got 1,000 wounded. He's in fine supply shape, though. And because of these two, we talked about this before, because of these two supply depots in the area, which were built by the Union, you know, kind of staying in this area and keeping himself supplied and having a force to cover southern Missouri, and then later to support operations around Cairo. I think Price is doing fine here for now. And as mentioned before, I don't want to just bring him over and take Cairo himself, because then I feel like he's kind of tied right into this area, and won't be able to respond to armies moving around here in southern Missouri and threatening Arkansas and all that sort of thing. So he's just going to kind of hang out here for the time being. And that leaves Sidney up. Our one little engineering corps. He's building his telegraph here at Helena, which I now realize was probably superfluous because there's a telegraph station at Memphis that probably would have reached to Batesville. So I guess I didn't really need to build this. However, I'm not going to tell him to stop. And it will, even though it would even though Memphis facilitates communications up this way, it doesn't quite reach to Little Rock. And so maybe later a telegraph running kind of Little Rock, Fort Smith, Carrollton this way may or may not be useful. Okay. Navy-wise, our little blockading fleet is still up here, blockading quite a few. Should be blockading. It's that whole time advance thing, I guess. Anyway, he's blockading 6 or 7 ports up here, and we had 3. Now we have 2 rather. Little raiding squadrons down here. One of which has been beat up and is needing to repair. Lost several ships. But we did drive off the, not drive off, but we did make one of these blockading squadrons stop blockading down here. Which then made me kind of get a big head and, wow, let's go try busting up this blockade squadron over here. And ran over here and got our asses handed to us. Yeah, no ports are blockaded at the moment. Time needs to advance. That always happens. Okay. So that's kind of what's going on across the map and in the economy and so forth. There is one little weird thing. Up to 121,000 men. That looks about right. However, this is showing us that we're down to like 89,000 men. And I don't know why. In the last episode, we were just a hair over 100,000. And we took less than 1,000 casualties in the Battle of Springfield in Missouri in the last episode. So I'm kind of at a loss on why are we like 11,000 men down. And if I look in this tooltip, it says that over the last 3 months, which would cover multiple battles, we've taken 6,000 casualties. We've lost 19,000 to attrition. But you put those two numbers together, that's about 25,000, and we've had about 25,000 return to service. So that's not it. I don't know why. So I don't know why we're at 89,000. The only thing I can think of is 12,000 is, I didn't count man for man, but 12,000 is approximately, the number of troops in the brigades that are currently transferring from Eastern Department to Garnett's Corps. So maybe this manpower number, soldiers in the field, and this number here in the strategic objectives, maybe it doesn't count units in transit between commands. It should. I mean, those soldiers are like on a train or marching along a road somewhere. They have their guns and their uniforms. They're in service. But maybe it just doesn't count those because at the moment they're not available, I guess. But that's the only explanation I can come up with. As soon as those guys get to Garnett, we'll have another look at that number. And I'm thinking, well, hoping that it pops up back above 100,000. I just took that cat. What else are we waiting on? Yeah, we've got... for politics, we could go suppress population. This would be okay if conquered states included Kentucky. I just don't know if it does. That's in the political subsidy realm. I'm kind of thinking save politics for either another level of admin reform or for another level of railroad construction. And then the other one we have is, I think, diplomacy, where we could go for trade deals now. Or we could wait for rifles. I know I'm dithering a really long time there. I want to take the trade deal. Because I know that there's a few items in our economy that simply cannot be produced domestically, period. They have to be imported. Coffee for provisions being the one that comes to mind that I mentioned before. Okay. Oh, by the way, when I was talking about gunpowder, and we have plenty of niter, that only occurs in two places on the map. There's a niter mine, both of them are in Alabama. There's one kind of in this Montgomery area, and there's one up near Decatur. And that's it. The Union doesn't have any niter production capability. They have to import all theirs, apparently. At least that's the way it was up through 1.05. I do remember that from playing the Union multiple times. Okay. So that leaves Albert Sidney Johnston. What you gonna do, Johnston? First things first, he's not in a good supply situation. He's got to do something. He either needs to fall back or press forward. I don't want to take Cincinnati. And this goes back to, the same reason I'm not taking Washington. That's a 10-point city. I've put together some plans that involve taking some cities that I wasn't really focused on before, but they're fairly small. Evansville is 3 points. Cairo, as important as it is only 2 points. Marietta, I think, is 1 or 2 points. 2 points. So I don't think that the loss of those cities will further degrade Union national morale, but I don't think nearly as much as losing 10-point Cincinnati, Ohio, or 10-point St. Louis, Missouri. So I don't think I'm going to try to capture Cincinnati, and I'm just going to kind of concede, okay, you get this little sliver over here of control, which is just because of the IIP of Maysville City. And there may be like a ferry there. Yeah. Okay, fine. You can have that. But I don't want to move away I can't sit here at Covington. But I don't want to move away from Covington, because then before too long, Mansfield's going to come back with the Army of the Ohio, and maybe by the time he builds his supply depot and gets his 17,000 men. So I think what I want to do is I'm going to cross the river, and hopefully this happens quickly enough where I don't capture Cincinnati. I want to cross the river and engage the Army of the Ohio. He may just retreat with only 9,500 men right now. And he also had a pretty recent defeat, so his morale and readiness may not quite be up to snuff. And then, once that battle is over, which hopefully we win, you know, I'm not the world's greatest tactical commander in this game, as has been recently discussed in comments. But either a battle and he retreats afterward, or we just come across and he withdraws, maybe back up toward Indianapolis. Just kind of chase him away from Covington for a little bit. And then we could either hop on the river and sail back down to Louisville, where our supply depot has had a chance to fill up with supplies a little bit. And we know that this IIP helps too, the Louisville Harbor. Or, that's option one. Option two is go into raiding mode and just kind of leisurely make our way back down through here and let some Indianans support the Confederate war effort. Now, this area of Indiana is under Confederate control. These are Confederate IIPs because of their proximity to Louisville. But it is still Indiana. It's going to drive down Indiana's state support, not Kentucky's. So we would kind of be hampering our own economy a little bit, but I don't know how much these IIPs are really contributing to us anyway. Anyway, that's what I think I'm going to do, and so it's still Hardy to get moving before he runs completely out of damn food. And because he's way up here at the end of the telegraph line, it's taking 14 freaking hours for that order to get there. Time to get time rolling. About 40 minutes into the episode. Golly, I go through these topics that I think people are interested in, and I try to talk fast through them, then I look down at the clock and I've been yammering on for half an hour or more. Yeah, okay, those blockades are starting to take effect again. Somebody is... Oh, I messed up. I should have waited for the Army HQ to get up here. Crap. Okay. I forgot. Johnston isn't actually here. This is Hardy by himself because he's too far away from Johnston, the Army commander. And we're out of food, so we better win this battle fast. Oh, they just built a hospital at Cincinnati. Did you see that little... Okay, there's our industrialization 1. And... yeah, I'm going to go straight into industrialization. I think this is more important than either diplomacy or King Cotton 2 right now. And we'll choose between King Cotton and diplomacy on the next go. And that is about a month. All right. Yeah. Yeah, Hardy's got nothing but ammunition. Use it to get some food, bro. Okay, Mansfield's gonna fight. You know what? This has been going about 45 minutes, which is a decent length for a video. And so I'm gonna put a cut here, and I am going to fight the Battle of whatever this is. Battle of Lawrenceburg. And that will be in the next episode, which actually I'm going to post probably right around just after. So there will be 2 episodes here on the same day. Okay. So that will do for this episode. Another one coming shortly and should be up by the time you reach this point. If you like what I'm doing here on the channel, leave a like, leave a comment, maybe even a subscribe. if you are so inclined. But at any rate, thank you very, very much for watching. I do appreciate it.